So the astrology this week, 21 December 2020 through 27 December 2020, it's a rare opportunity to experience history, astrological history, in the moment that it's actually happening. It's one of the great gifts that astrology gives us is we know when the sky clock tells us this is a very significant moment in time, and we get to experience it in real time, in the present. The great conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn happens this week on Monday, and then the rest of the week gets a little quiet. Okay, glad you're here, glad to be here, glad to be alive. End of 2020, we're preparing to enter 2021. It's historic, it's new. This week comes as a punctuation, really, of all that has happened with eclipse season, with Saturn and Jupiter changing signs. So we're going to start the week here with Mercury entering Capricorn. It leaves its sign of exile, Sagittarius, where it's been for the last couple of weeks, and comes now into Capricorn. This is a cool transit. It's an upgrade for Mercury because Mercury leaves Sagittarius, which is opposite Gemini. And so instead of Mercury being able to do the kind of particularized analysis that it likes to do, the real focus on thoughts and breaking things down and making distinctions, Mercury had to, again, filter through Jupiter, and Jupiter was troubled in Capricorn. Jupiter, think about this, you get a gift. Someone brings you a big gift, a big stack of, let's say, dollar bills. Are you going to question it? In that moment of exchange, usually we just say, hey, yes, thank you, okay. No, you don't make distinctions. You don't ask about the fine print. That would be rude, right? So Mercury has had to kind of restrain itself. It was with the South Node, which can be draining, but now it enters Capricorn. This happens about 7 in the morning here in Central Europe. And what happens is that Mercury gets term dignity in the first 7 degrees of Capricorn. So we know that it's a comfortable place in Capricorn for Mercury to be, but it has to now filter through Saturn. And Saturn's still quite strong. Even though Saturn has moved into Aquarius, it still has that Aquarian strength. Anytime I see Mercury, Saturn, it can be a quite useful combination. I mean, you think about old books, old texts, ancient wisdom, wanting to bring the breaking down nature of the thinking into ancient things. This can go well, this can work well. What are the authorities on any particular matter? We might think about astrology. Could be a time to go into some of the ancient texts, look at the translations, ask questions about why words were translated in a certain way, and it can help us really come to new conclusions and methods of understanding using that ability for Mercury to break things down. And I like the text analysis. We see this in Firmicus Maternus, an ancient astrologer who wrote about Mercury, Saturn being about older libraries. I've always liked that delineation. So, we get this now with Mercury being a Capricorn this week. The other thing is that we have elders. If it's not books, we've got elders in our community. What are the elders that you have access to say? This is perfect. Mercury communication. Hey, tell me about your life. One of my favorite things when I talk to older folks, I want to hear the stories. It works very well with astrology because this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius, the last time this happened in the same region of the zodiac was in the early 1960s. We had a Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Capricorn, and then we had all of these planets moving into Aquarius in February 1962, which we will get a repeat of in February 2021 with 6 of the 7 traditional planets in Aquarius. So you might want to call, I think I'm going to ask my dad about that today. I'm going to call him and say, hey, tell me about February 1962. What were you doing, Dad? Just hear about his life. When I connect with older guys or gals or older folks, I like to just let them have the floor and really take in their wisdom, because sometimes I found when you ask someone, hey, tell me that story, things just want to come out for folks. They haven't had a chance to share that information. And it's a great gift we can give people, is just say, hey, tell me your story, and instigate a flow out from them. Mercury is still right with the sun. It's in the heart of the sun, within that 1 degree range. And Mercury will remain in the heart of the sun on Monday. So the sun follows Mercury right into Capricorn about 4 hours later. So they won't be too long in different signs. This in the heart of the sun moment extends into early Monday and extends actually up through the Great Conjunction. One more thing I want to consider with Mercury here now coming into Capricorn and being right on the edge of the solstice. This is the winter point. 0 Capricorn is that winter solstice point, because when the sun hits there, it marks the nadir for how much light is available during the day in the Northern Hemisphere. This is Christmas, right? This is the symbolism of why we celebrate Christmas and all of the other holidays. This doesn't have to be the Christian holiday of Christmas. I think about ancient Rome, they had Saturnalia right around this time. Saturnalia, party. It was a party for Saturn. And it was a party because this is the promise of now the sun grows, right? Up until the summer solstice. So we have the winter solstice, the sun's born again. The summer solstice is the highest point. The days are the longest in the northern hemisphere. But this is to celebrate the so-called darkest hour. We have a party here because we know it's going to change and the better times are ahead. Mercury coming into Capricorn. It could be a good time to do some spending. That's Mercury. Shopping, business, exchange. If you've got people that you want to buy gifts for or holiday gifts, you have no light. It's tough out there. I walk around and it's dark at 4 p.m. here. And it's cold and it can be very uncomfortable. Instead of getting down about it, we start giving as a way to sort of mitigate this time of the year, which can be challenging. Think about that Mercury in those first 7 degrees of Capricorn, or spending really of any kind. A lot of times for elections, whenever I see little pockets of dignity for Mercury, that's when I like to open my pocketbook and buy some things that maybe I've been wanting to buy, whether it's for me or for other people. So maybe do some spending here early this week. Yeah, so Mercury, it's really going to be in this, its own Egyptian term here through about Friday. So maybe get some of that spending done earlier in the week. Okay, so now let's move, like I said, about 11 a.m. Central European time. On Monday, the sun will join Mercury there. They do have a condition called Antisha. Being in the 1st degree of Capricorn, the sun is in the last degree of Sagittarius. They have this antishal relationship. So they really don't lose contact at all during this traversing of the barrier that Mercury makes before the sun. They remain in contact the whole time. But now they're co-present. They meet and they can really join and communicate by being in that 1st degree of Capricorn together. A lot of times this would be the big story this week, would be the winter solstice and the birth of the sun, the rebirth of the sun gaining power in the northern hemisphere. But because of the Great Conjunction, this story is kind of lost a little bit. This Great Conjunction is a once in a 20-year event, a huge event, and that the two have happening here on the same day. I did some research earlier this year. Someone asked me on Twitter, when was the last time we had the winter solstice and the Great Conjunction at the same time, and I found that there was only 2 times, and these were before the Common Era. So this is quite rare that we have the winter solstice and the Great Conjunction happening right on this same day. It's doubling up the symbolism is what it's doing, because in a normal year, this is a time to consider what you want to birth. What do you want to birth here? And it can extend into that summer as the sun gains in light. It's like a lunation cycle. This is the new moon of this sort of solar cycle. That's why New Year's resolutions happen on January 1st. It's because symbolically the sun is now growing. Then the Jupiter-Saturn cycle is a new year of 20 years. Really a sense of a rebirth energy, of starting things new, of things that can grow into next year. When the sun is in Capricorn, it's a time, the sun is our consciousness, and Saturn is work and effort. An earth sign is around the home and the physical environment. This is a time when we are in our homes more. We've all been in our homes quite a lot in 2020, but even so, it's colder out, and that can force folks inside. This is traditionally a time to bring the consciousness to that home and try to batten down the hatch a little bit to get ready for the difficult winter months, which come in January and February during Capricorn season and then into Aquarius season. Are the coldest months in the northern hemisphere. So figuring out how you want to bring that conscious awareness to your home environment. This is also the delayed pleasure transit I find, because we have to bring our awareness to the endurance model of reality in winter as a symbol. I know you guys in the southern hemisphere, you're having a different type of energy, but I think symbolically you can just think about it too. I mean, what are you delaying right now? What kind of pleasure are you going to put off while we have a Sun-Saturn transit? And we've got Mars still in Aries. That's the thing. Gives this a really nice tonality of effort and work with that Mars, that workhorse Mars, exchanging with the Sun here. They're exchanging exaltation rulership. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. The Sun is exalted in Aries. The Sun is in Capricorn. Mars is in Aries. So they have an exchange of exaltation rulership, which is a really nice flow. Now these are square because it's the cardinal sign, but I think there's a dynamism here. Remember, square aspects, they can provide a certain rigor and a certain challenge, but if we can use the energy and go into it, we actually learn quite a bit. It's like if you write a book, you have to sit down every day and punch out the words. There's no way to escape that. There's no way around that. And it can be hard. Okay, boom, sentence after sentence, word after word. Mercury's not really involved. Well, Mercury's with the Sun. But it's that kind of mentality. It's like, I'm just going to get in, I'm going to put in my time, and I'm going to do the effort. Mars leaves Aries January 6th, and that will bring a whole different feel. We get to trine with Mars, but Mars then becomes subdued in Taurus, and really we'll have a hard time, I think, getting going. While Mars is now direct in Aries, finishing the Mars and Aries story. Hopefully whatever Mars did there for you is coming to some conclusion, and you can really deploy these last couple of weeks of Mars and Aries with the Sun exchanging exaltation rulership to your advantage. And then the last thing I just want to say about Sun Saturn and Sun in Capricorn is there does become a de-emphasis on the individual will. What do I want? What do I want? I, me, I, me, mine, the George Harrison song, really cool song. We have to survive when times are tough, when there's austerity in the natural environment. We really do have to band together. I've lived on a farm before in Belarus, and it was all about communal effort. We shared a lot of roles because we were subject to the austerity of nature. We were living out in the middle of nowhere. That can be how I view the Sun Capricorn energy as well. We have to de-emphasize the individual and look to have a communal network of support. Think about the networks of mutual support. But it's okay, take your hat off and say, well, I'm part of a community. I'm part of a whole network here. I live in a building with other people. I walk out. We're all sharing this energy in this collective space together. You buy groceries. Hey, thank you. We're working together here. My exchange of value is helping you. You're helping me get the rice. This kind of exchange of value and mutual interdependence is a true attitude. It's a true thing, but this is the season, I think, where that's more important to place at the forefront of our consideration. This is 7:20 in Europe. We get the great conjunction on Monday after Mercury and Mars have crossed the solstice point, and then we get this beautiful great conjunction. And I have a whole video on it called a new Aquarian Age. And I deliberately put the single article, and it's not the Aquarian Age, maybe. Some people are going to debate that. I see a lot of astrologers getting up in arms about that. My position on the Aquarian Age is just that it's a big debate. There's nothing definite about it, and there's all kinds of ways to calculate it. I do think we're in a new astrological age that started last century. Whether you want to deem it the Aquarian Age, that's up to you, but this is a whole thing that is not the purpose of that video. It's an Aquarian Age, mainly because the great conjunction happens in Aquarius. That's a 20-year cycle where we'll have this Aquarian element dominating for that 20-year, they call it a root chart in the older texts. So we get a root chart that's based with Aquarius as that degree where the meeting takes place. That's an Aquarian Age. We get 3 more years after this point with Saturn in Aquarius, so that's an Aquarian Age, the ruler of Aquarius being in Aquarius. A short summary of that video is that I looked at the triplicity rulers of Aquarius. Because remember, there's no exaltation ruler of Aquarius. All we have is Saturn, the domicile ruler, and then the air signs have triplicity rulers, but Saturn is one of those triplicity rulers. And so we really only get Mercury. Now you can say Jupiter is a supporting triplicity ruler, okay, but in terms of the main triplicity rulers, it's really only Mercury and Saturn. Those are the 2 planets that dominate Aquarius by rulership. Technology, medical technology in particular with Mercury, and then government and authority is Saturn, and the earth, right? Saturn is farming too. So in this new age of like medical, biological, technology, and governance all combining. Mercury is also money and finance and trade. So we see digital currency, we see sort of biotech and biotechnology becoming really important now. And that's what I think this new age we're entering into. And there's pitfalls and promises. Some people are very optimistic about it. Some people are saying we're in this kind of dystopia. The immortal spirit that we all have, the soul, right, that comes, I believe, from somewhere that transcends the conditions, the material conditions, and even the planetary conditions. There's this higher soul that we can shoot our soul up into. As long as we can prioritize that, I like to phrase it as quicken the spirit. So as long as we're doing techniques of quickening the spirit, it's going to be good and bad, right? But we can retain that spirit. And that's what I think the great challenge is of this Aquarian Age, is how do we retain our soul and our spirit against maybe incursions, if there's technological incursions. I do like the Pisces moon. I'm not going to elect some big projects here, but what I will do is use this how I spent 2012's winter solstice, which I'll just be in meditation, and I'm going to probably time it right with that exact moment of the conjunction. And just try to consider the next 20 years. Just do some real surrender and some deference to these higher forces. Mercury, the intermediary of the gods. That's how I want to really use this moment, is more of feeling that energy and trying to communicate and see if there's messages that are available from these higher realms. And this is what I was alluding to at the introduction. This is that special collective time. Just the power of the Great Conjunction. For millennia, astrologers, like over a millennia, astrologers have known that Jupiter and Saturn, when they meet, at times changes, big changes. And we've got those happening now. I was thinking about the collective changes. Remember, think about 2000, what happened. We got that election in the fall of 2000. That was a big shift of energy. George W. Bush came in and there was that disputed election. That was a big shift. I remember feeling that. And then September 2001, just, a year later, over a year later, the whole world changed. The whole way that nations interact and the kind of governing modality shifted. That's why I think we can just meditate and just feel the power, feel the weight and heaviness of this great conjunction and what it's going to do to our reality and what it's already done. Hell, we've had that Saturn-Jupiter co-presence in Capricorn since December 2019. We're going to have Saturn-Jupiter co-presence until December 2021. Just feel the gravity, being aware of living through history while we're living through it as much as we can. A couple of moons I want to talk about. If I have to pick the best energy of the week, I would probably say that Pisces moon and that great conjunction energy on Monday, that end of the moon's transit through Pisces. It's still probably the best moon of the week. So I've already talked a lot about Monday and what I think we're going to do there. Just enjoy that Monday energy, enjoy it. I'll be meditating, like I said. So the moon will enter Aries on Monday night. The first and only moon that will happen while Mars is in Aries this round without Saturn and Capricorn. So it really changes Mars and Aries and our ability to do those martial things. There isn't that lockdown, that kind of strict lockdown that Saturn was bringing to Mars. So I'm thinking that this Monday, late Monday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, moon in Aries will be cool, actually. We usually don't like Mars moon just because, I've talked about this a lot here, but Mars wants to cut out into the world and separate from through dynamic action, through deliberate action. The moon is not about that. The moon wants to soften and rest into the home, the nurturing. So there's this sort of opposition of signification with Mars moon, but I think about being comfortable in our dynamism, in our movement. How can we bring awareness and feel at home when we strike out and do things? And that's, with people with strong Mars, they're good at that. That's what I love, seeing that strong Mars in a chart. Particularly Mars and Aries. I mean, these folks are really comfortable just getting out in the world, leaving things quickly. There's not a sense of a maudlin regret often. This could be the final rush of holiday shopping. Remember Mercury in its own term in Capricorn, and then this Mars moon. Maybe that's this kind of frantic rush to get your presents wrapped. And even if you're just in one little home with maybe your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your partner or your child, that can be kind of a dynamic preparation for whatever you're going to do just with the people you're able to see. So Thursday in Central Europe, the moon enters Taurus. The thing about these Taurus moons now, the moon's exalted there, so I like it. But that Saturn in Aquarius now squares the moon from earlier in zodiacal order. It really puts the party out in some ways with that moon. It's just not one moon that I'll be using very much at all until 2023. It's not the preferred energy. But this is something I did want to talk about right here, is that what do we do? So most of the time in the sky, there's not great energy, and every week there's pockets and cool things going on, but sometimes, let's just say half, I haven't done a statistical analysis, but let's say half the time there isn't this auspicious supportive astrology. Well, we still have to live our lives, and it's a theory of astrology that's important to acknowledge, that sometimes we have to just push the computers aside, push the software aside, push the charts aside, and live our lives, and have skills for living that don't depend on astrology, that are just, how do I live well, and just put those into practice. Skills that are independent of condition. So I'll leave you with that and to consider during this maybe second half of the week, where we're just gonna have to get into what we've already prepared for. It's like you prepare for a basketball game. I used to play basketball in high school. We train, but once you get live and you're in the game, all you can do is rely on your training. and just go in and do the best you can. And that's how I see these periods where maybe we don't have like this Jupiter's awesome, let's, you know, start this new business. Jupiter and Mercury are dignified and they're in a trine, you know. So it's just life. Life is about grind. Let's pull these cards. Ooh. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's worth just thinking about. We're now in the wake of the big changes that have happened all in 2020, this final climax of the year. So there might be a sense of withdrawal or come down or adjustment. Just give yourself space if you're having to like, oh, that was so intense, and maybe there's a little bit of discombobulation. Just give yourself a little space for that. Okay, first card. Four of Hearts. Four of Hearts. Love the Four of Hearts. This is just a cool card. This is the last decan of Capricorn, of Cancer. This is a moon in Cancer, the Four of Hearts. And anytime there's four in the cartomancy or tarot system, you think about a table. I'm looking at a couple stools here. I've got a table, this table that I'm pulling cards from. There's four. It's a card of stability and support. And I think this is the sense that just what I said actually while I was shuffling. We've gone through 2020 and now we're here maybe in a moment where all of that climactic astrology is taking place, and we're now in maybe like a plateau where you've climbed and now you can kind of see and have some support temporarily. Anyhow, that's where I'm at with this card. Just kind of rest. Anytime you see the moon, it's nurture, it's body. Get some rest here. And like students that are out there, this is your school break. Try to get a little bit of decompression and rest. That's big on my agenda for next week. I've been so busy during the eclipse season, so I'm just trying to chill right now. And it's good to see that here in the first position. It's the moon, so maybe we're also thinking about eclipse season here as the moon and the sun did their eclipse dance. This is the earlier first position. So maybe consider what you learned during eclipse season, you know, what did it bring you? And I've got some lessons that I, you know, like about time management and trying to just get more efficient, you know, for my clients and for my offerings. But you might have similar lessons that you can reflect on. What's the new order, like the new stability that eclipse season brought you? Think about it. Okay, let's get the second card. And yeah, you know, it's such a pleasure and joy for me, I just say this now, to be involved in this practice and to be sharing this with as many people as I can share it with. So I'm very honored and I'm very grateful for the technology and the tools we have to share whatever it is you're passionate about. But for me, it's astrology and divination and tarot. This is, I think, with this Aquarian age coming, some of the best part of it is the instant global sharing that's available to us. So this is something I'm most excited about for this big turning of the age, or this age that we're entering into. Okay, so let's get the second card. Almost had a card, fell out, it didn't fall out. So let's get the second card. Okay, death. Death. Nothing wrong with a little death. Nothing wrong with a little death. It's healthy. And look at the death card. See that blue? It might be death is a scary thing, but it's actually farming in this card. And it's producing life. That's that new growth. So anytime we see death, we automatically have to go to fertilization. And how when I mean, in a very literal sense, if you bury a body, it feeds all those creatures underground. And those creatures, then it's a cycle of life, that the death is necessary to produce new life. Even in nature, people say, well, these animals are killing each other in a state of nature, and it's almost a divine beauty in the hunt and the be hunted sort of mentality. I don't want to get too macabre. I don't want to get too dark. But the point is we use this as a metaphor. What is dying? And actually what died for you in 2020? Maybe you lost a loved one. Condolences. I didn't lose a loved one this year. So, but what died? So much died collectively. The old way of life is gone. Okay. Free travel, gone. For the most part. Work in an office, basically gone. Restaurants, totally altered. So our whole life has been changed. This, I think, is a very poignant card for the second position here as we project out into the future, because whatever this new age is bringing, this Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, this 20-year cycle, we're going to have to figure out how what we lost can fertilize whatever we are doing now for the next period. And this would be like So I've got to do online stuff now. We can fertilize the loss of the sharing communal space by putting that energy into the technology and doing the things maybe we used to do, but through the power of the, Aquarian air sign technological power that we all have access to. I mean, these cameras are quite cheap actually. YouTube's free to start a channel. So that's where I'm going to go with this, and nurture yourself into this new phase by considering what's been lost and how that can fertilize your new vision of yourself. Okay, that's the tarot reading. Very, very happy to be here. Very happy to do this. As always, you can book astrology and tarot readings with me, sjanderson144.com. Click here to schedule a reading right at the top. It will take you right to that readings page. I look forward to reading for you, and have a lovely, lovely week ahead. Enjoy this fresh, beautiful Monday, and then kind of get into your holiday plans with your loved ones.